exponential growth across the Sunshine State is making Amazon one of Florida's largest employers. With more than 59,000 Florida employees, the company is looking to hire thousands more in the state for soon-to-open distribution centers and other major projects coming down the road. Hello, everyone. I'm Rob Landers, and welcome to the Florida Pulse. Last year, Amazon created more than 200,000 jobs in the United States, where it now has more than 1.1 million employees. The company touts that no other U.S.-based business has created more jobs than it has over the past decade. And while the COVID-19 pandemic forced many companies to cut jobs, Amazon did just the opposite. In 2020 alone, it added 500,000 new jobs in the United States, translating to more than 1,300 new hires a day. But all that growth doesn't come without a cost, especially in an already tight job market like Florida. While Amazon's growth is indeed creating jobs, it is also creating issues for other businesses, especially smaller employers in the service sector, such as retailers and restaurants, which are finding it hard to compete. Joining me today to talk about Amazon's explosive growth in Florida are Dr. Sean SNAITH, Director of the University of Central Florida's Institute for Economic Forecasting, and a nationally recognized economist in the field of business and economic forecasting, and USA Today Network of Florida growth and development reporter Dave BERMAN, who has been part of the team covering Amazon's growth across our state, including two of the company's distribution centers in Dave's own backyard on the Space Coast. Sean, Dave, thank you so much for joining me today. Dave, let's just jump right in. How much is Amazon expanding in Florida?
Well, they have had a real big expansion in Florida in the last several years. Right now, they have over 59,000 employees in Florida, and a lot of those employees joined the company in the last 2 years. Amazon found that there was more demand during the pandemic for people ordering goods online and Amazon shipping them to them. So they've opened a number of new warehouse locations and hired a number of new drivers for Florida. And as part of a nationwide move by a company that's really expanding very quickly in the last few years.
Okay, so the pandemic's, the pandemic's, I don't want to say it's over. We're at a comfortable spot in the pandemic, let's say. Amazon's already hiring people. Why are they pushing to hire so many more people?
Well, they want to improve their delivery times. They're trying to get more deliveries within 1 day of the order, and in some cases, same-day deliveries on certain types of products. So they're building new distribution centers throughout the state and to decrease the time needed for them to ship their goods to their customers.
Okay, so we're talking about Amazon coming in and wanting to hire a bunch of people. We know that even locally, when you get down to the restaurant level, they're struggling to hire people. Sean, let me ask you, what is the current job outlook in Florida right now?
Yeah, well, I think we're back to where we were and a little bit better in terms of market relative to the pandemic. And, a number of issues really that are sort of follow-ons to or boomerang effects, if you will, of COVID-19 policies, the lockdowns, closures, stay-at-home. Orders, now have come back to haunt us, if you will, in the form of high gasoline prices, the labor market situation, supply chain difficulties, and overall inflation as well. So it's a tight labor market. It remains as such, but it's different than where we were pre-pandemic. The February 2020. Labor market was in great shape as well in Florida, but you didn't see these same issues that have cropped up over the past year and a half in terms of businesses just unable to find people.
So you kind of touched on this a little bit. What is the overall outlook for Florida's economy right now?
I think it's in pretty good shape. I mean, we face the same risks, I think, that the national economy faces right now, and that is, how is the Fed going to walk these two tightropes in its attempt to bring inflation back down to its target levels? That is, they have two things they have to achieve, and one is, of course, raising interest rates, which I suspect they're going to start doing at a more rapid and larger steps very soon. But then they also have to work down a nearly $9 trillion balance sheet that has been building since the 2007, 2008 financial crisis and recession. So beyond that, though, Florida's economy is doing quite well. We didn't pursue the COVID policies that we saw in some other countries and other states. We opened up, rather soon by comparison to some states, and so that allowed our rebound to get underway, and the population growth continues to drive the economy, and the outlook, barring this, these risks at the national level, and even through that, I mean, the trends were all very strong still for Florida in terms of its economic and population growth. So,
we've talked a little bit already about the pandemic and its effect on Florida, and I mean, tourism is a major driving factor for us, and we're seeing recovery in tourism across the state. What are our strongest industries right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, tourism in terms of job growth, that is the sector that's leading the state. But that's still in catch-up mode, really, because total tourism employment still is not back to where it was pre-pandemic, and so there are pieces of tourism that are lagging this recovery a little bit. Domestic visitation, I would argue, is above where we were pre-pandemic, but it's the business travel, the big expos, conventions, conferences that are still in catch-up mode, and then you have also international visitation, because you've got a patchwork of different requirements in terms of vaccination and testing and things of that nature that I think is holding back international tourism. But beyond that, there's professional business services is a strong sector. Construction, really wasn't very much impacted by the pandemic, and so that's continued. We're in a very critical situation in the housing market, incredible shortages that we're still playing catch up on, and of course, public works projects around the state that really continued uninterrupted by COVID-19.
And Sean, one more question for you, real quick, kind of staying on the same track. How well are we doing as a state in recovery following the shutdown that we went through?
I think pretty well. And again, this was a historic recession in many ways, and one of those ways is that it was self-inflicted. We were in an economy that was in great shape in February of 2020, and then suddenly these unprecedented public health measures, and we closed down the so-called non-essential businesses, and it was instant recession. But once that opened up, by and large, the economy came roaring back, and then fuel was sort of added to that fire in the form of the CARES Act and trillions of dollars more in federal spending that I think ultimately set the inflation fires burning, and that's where we're at now. But the state of the economy, to me, was in terms of its long run, was really unaffected by COVID-19. The pandemic is a transitory event, and it didn't really change the fundamentals of Florida's economy. It did, of course, knock us hard off of that trend, but I think all indications are that we're back on that solid trend for growth.
Well, okay, so to get back on our main topic for today, so how much can we attribute now to our recovery to Amazon and Amazon's expansion in Florida? And that's, either one of you can take that.
Well, I could talk about that a little bit to start with. I think Amazon is a pretty attractive employer for a lot of people because they're paying an average wage of $18 an hour in Florida. And currently the minimum wage in Florida is $10 an hour, though it will be going up to $15 in by I believe 2026 in stages where they're increasing at $1 an hour every year. But and also Amazon is paying strong benefits as well for their employees. So it's a double-edged sword a little bit, where they're attracting a lot of people who are looking for work, but then at the same time, other companies that maybe can't match Amazon's pay level or Amazon's benefit package are struggling even more now to find employees. And this is at a time when the average unemployment rate in many parts of the state is 3% or less, which is considered full employment. So it's a struggle for a lot of, especially services businesses, to find employees to fill the gaps that they have now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, where we are, Dave, I believe the unemployment rate is well below 3% even. You mentioned the benefits packages. So what are some of the positives related to Amazon's flexible work schedule and its benefit package?
Right. The one thing that is attractive to many people is that their employees can work night shifts or day shifts, that work 4-hour shifts. So in a 2-income household where they have small children that need childcare, one of the people can work, let's say, day shift at one company, and then the other person in the household could work a night shift at Amazon, so that they save on the childcare costs in addition to the wage scale, which is more attractive than maybe some other local businesses. And the other thing is that they are offering various benefits in addition to the typical things like health insurance. They are paying for the workers to get educational benefits, including careers that may not even translate to an Amazon job. They want to try and keep their employees happy and trying to get them to be more, have more education skills for the future.
So, all right. So, Sean, I want to ask you this question. Looking at all of those benefits, what is that going to do to the other business in the state? I mean, when I think about Amazon coming in and offering $18 an hour and offering all these great incentives, and then I think about somebody who is working at a Disney theme park for minimum wage, handing out churros in the heat. I'm going to much rather be working in an air-conditioned building for $18 an hour and getting great benefits than slinging churros. Like, what is this going to mean overall for the state?
Well, yeah. I don't know if a warehouse is the happiest place on earth. I think there's other factors here. They mentioned, the minimum wage is slated to go up $1 a year here, but it's become a non-binding minimum wage, and really, you can see all over from fast food establishments on, starting wages are $12-13 or higher. The ability to compete, with Amazon. First of all, Amazon can't hire everybody in the state, and we're talking about a segment, by and large of the workforce that they're vying for, and you're right, they are competing with smaller businesses, service type establishments for workers, and they're already being forced because of what's happening in the market to pay much higher wages than the minimum wage, and they certainly can't offer the same suite of add-ons there in terms of benefits and paying for higher education, things along that line. So I think businesses have to adjust to the environment, and the trade-off is this is other places might offer a less hectic workplace. Less pressure and stress. I mean, as David mentioned, Amazon's pushing and pushing to try to get more rapid delivery and fulfillment of its products. So there's going to be a lot of expectations in a job like that, in a company like that may not be everybody's cup of tea, if you will. But it certainly is a challenging labor market, especially for small businesses that don't have the wherewithal to sort of sweeten the deal in terms of additional compensation or benefits packages.
Okay, and I'm really glad that you said that, because that brings me right into the next question I wanted to ask you is what can small businesses do to try and compete? Like, I mean, what can any small business, I mean, whether it's a restaurant or it's a mom and pop shop in a small downtown area, what can any of them do to compete with the allure of Amazon's benefit package and money? And again, I realize, as you just said, they can't hire everybody, but if I know they're coming and I'm one of the workers that's even if I'm working at a Walmart, and those benefits are offered to me, I'm going to be one of the first people to apply. So what can smaller businesses do to try and compete with that?
Well, I think you can't compete head to head with these gigantic corporations, and whatever the marketplace that they're selling goods, right? You mentioned Walmart. Well, Walmart moves into small rural town, opens up stores, and local mom and pop shops go out of business because they just simply can't compete on price. And the same thing is true. These small businesses are not going to be able to have people come and work in the sandwich shop and promise to pay their college tuition. So it has to be some compensating differentials there in terms of the quality of life, the work environment itself. I mean, we've seen stories throughout the media about the pressure that workers throughout Amazon are placed under to try to get these packages out quickly, to try to get these orders fulfilled. And not everybody wants to be in that kind of environment, or needs to be in that kind of environment. So, you have to focus on, I guess, other elements of the job. In many cases, non-wage elements. What's the workplace like? I mean, when you go to work, I mean, do you feel like you're in a pressure cooker, or do you, is it a place that's relatively fun to do your job? Location matters too. I mean, not everybody's going to want to drive to the warehouse or drive an Amazon truck. So there are people that small businesses could hire, but I think many are finding that they got to find substitutes, whether that's technology, servers in restaurants, I think are going to become increasingly scarce and replaced with tablets, cashiers, whether they're in grocery markets or fast food places. You see more and more self-checkout lines. You'll see more and more touchscreen ordering and ATMs. So these kind of things, I think, are going to be accelerated. They're happening already, but they're going to be accelerated because of what's happening in the labor market. And it's not just Amazon driving, this bus. This is a broader situation in our labor market.
Amazon is one piece in the big puzzle of what is happening right now in jobs.
No, as I mentioned, this was a very unique recession, right? In another way, the many ways it was unique is that some companies absolutely thrived during the pandemic and the lockdowns, and Amazon was one of those companies. Grocery stores were another, and so they were, hiring throughout the pandemic.
Right. I think Dave's got a story coming out. I think the stat he's got is they hired Dave, I think it's 200,000 people during 2020.
I believe that's the number. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was
This is
like 1,300 a day they were hiring, like at some points.
Not a normal recession.
No, not a normal recession at all. Sean, you touched on something about the pressure cooker and not everybody wants to work in a warehouse. Dave, I want to ask you, what are some of the concerns about working conditions at Amazon?
right. There are many concerns from workers and from labor groups and from people who study workplace safety. For example, the shift at Amazon, even the company is saying that you're going to be standing on your feet almost your entire shift, and you're going to be bending and lifting, and you're expected to be able to lift up to 49 pounds at a time of these products that are going to be shipped out. So it is a job where if you're not used to physical work, you might have difficulty doing it. Like if you're in a sedentary job, or if you're working at a call center or places like that, it might be, you might want to think twice about applying for a job at Amazon, because this is generally a strenuous job that requires be on your feet all the time and moving around and that type of thing. And was a study that came out recently that showed that the incidence of serious injuries at an Amazon warehouse are twice as high as they are at other similar type of warehouses. And one of the things that both the company and some safety experts are saying might be causing that is workplace injuries happen most often on workers' first year on the job, when they're still learning the job. So because Amazon has hired so many people, you mentioned those figures were actually for last year, 2021, 200,000 people nationwide were hired by Amazon, and many of them are working either as drivers or as warehouse workers. So especially in a warehouse, when you're first starting out, you might not know all the intricacies of the job and might make mistakes that lead to an injury. So the fact that they have so many newer employees is probably leading to some of these workplace injuries at the warehouse facilities.
Amazon, correct me if I'm wrong, Amazon is actually working on ways to improve safety by using robotics, correct? Let's talk about that for a second.
Right. They are introducing robotics into many of their facilities. And for example, there's a facility that they're planning to build in Tallahassee that's is a robotics driven facility. And they'll still hire about 1,000 employees, but robots will help do a lot of the work there. And they will be a way for them to gather up the products for shipment and bring them to the employees that are actually packaging them, so that the workers can stay in one place more rather than walking around at the plant, and possibly saving some wear and tear on their bodies by letting the robots do a lot of the lifting work and a lot of the transporting work between these various locations within this massive warehouse.
Okay, so in addition to robotics, when I hear about questionable working conditions, one of the things that always kind of comes to my mind is, okay, so how long before they unionize? And as we have heard, there is one shop already that has unionized. I believe it was another one that voted down unionization. Dave, where is Amazon right now with unionizing?
Right, there have been there was one plant in a warehouse in Staten Island, which is a borough of New York City, that recently approved unionizing their workers. And then just in the last week, a second plant that was almost adjacent to that plant, the workers there turned down the union. And the feeling was that many of these were part-time workers and transitory and didn't have long-term commitment to Amazon, so they weren't as committed to joining a union as the ones that voted to unionize. The company is saying that they don't feel unions are necessary at Amazon, and they want to work with employees directly rather than through a union. But it seems like since the one plant unionized, there's been 50 to 100 other warehouses where workers have contacted the union and want to start organizing drives at their locations. So it's probably going to be a trend where you'll see more union votes at different Amazon facilities throughout the country.
Yeah, I think listening to NPR yesterday, I think I heard that union filings are up 60%. It's like the highest number of union filings since like the 1930s. Sean, I want to ask you, what happens when we start seeing Amazon workers in Florida decide that they want to unionize? What does that mean for Amazon here? What does that mean for the state of Florida?
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. I think those numbers, percentage growth and at least attempts to unionize are pretty eye popping. If you look at the percentage of the workforce, and especially once you get outside of government, the percentage of workers that are in unions has been steadily declining for some time, and so I don't think you're going to see widespread unionization throughout Amazon because the workers there. It's just that it's a different time. There was a time, I think, in our country's economic history where unions made sense, where you had one company sort of dominating an entire town, and you worked there or you didn't, and trying to find a job somewhere else was very difficult. Transportation wasn't as easy. Now workers can move about from one position to the next with relatively low costs. I think if this happens, and what this means in terms of the benefits and wages that workers for Amazon are trying to get via union membership, the company may respond. As they've said, they certainly are pushing towards robotics. They can do other labor saving sort of capital investments if unionization somehow leads to wages that are well above what the market's suggesting.
Dave, so in the story that you've got coming out in the next couple of days, I believe you said that Amazon is now saying it may have expanded its staff and facilities too quickly. What is the latest on Amazon's financial losses and the company's reaction?
Right. The company just recently reported their first quarter earnings report, and they had a really huge financial loss. Part of it was related to their operations. Part of it was related to a stock issue that had nothing really to do with the company's general business practices. But the part that related to the warehouses was that during December and January, when there was a variant of the COVID-19 virus that was spreading throughout the country, Amazon had a lot of employees that called in sick, and they decided to boost up their hiring to replace those workers. And at the same time, they were paying the workers that were on sick leave. And then in some cases, they were paying their other workers who were not sick double time to fill in on extra shifts. So their payroll costs went up greatly. And with the decrease in COVID-19 cases, now they're saying they're overstaffed, which is a little ironic because last year they were worried about being understaffed for their Christmas shopping season. And now they're overstaffed, and they feel that they may have overextended themselves in building new warehouse facilities that maybe they don't just need just yet. So now they're scaling back a little bit on their expansion plans for 2022 and may not build as many new facilities, open as many new facilities as they were originally planning to do.
Wow. Okay, guys, we're rapidly running out of time. Sean, is there any final thought you want to add, or is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have?
Yeah, just a final thought on this last point is that, I think this recession and the COVID-19 policies that caused it, and I think, sending out all the checks and the trillions of dollars of spending, flooded the economy. Demand was exploding coming out of the recession, and then this just added fuel to the fire. And so that money was being spent at Amazon and elsewhere. Now we're starting to see, some normalization in terms of consumer spending. So, I guess it's not that surprising that Amazon got out a little bit ahead of the curve here, given the unusual nature of this cycle.
Dave, final thought?
I think it's going to be interesting to watch Amazon through the rest of this year to see how they balance out the rapid expansion that they've had with now some financial concerns. Their company stock prices has dropped because of the financial report, and they're going to have to get a middle ground of how much they want to expand versus holding it back a little bit to catch up with the demand for their services.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing more of your coverage, Dave, in the pages of the USA Today Network and on our websites. Sean, Dave, thank you both for joining me today and for talking to me about all things Amazon in the Sunshine State.
Thanks for having me.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the Florida Pulse. Again, my thanks to Dave Berman and Dr. Sean Snaith for joining me today. If you have questions about our Amazon coverage, you can email Dave directly at dberman@floridatoday.com. And if you're not a subscriber to your local USA Today Network of Florida news site, I strongly encourage you to visit www.usatoday.com/Florida Network. Support local journalism. For all of us here at the USA Today Network of Florida, I'm Rob Landers. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next month.